Good evening, welcome to the February 7th Selectmen meeting, Town of Raymond. Everyone's here, so we have a quorum. First order of business is the minutes of December 6, 2011.
Motion to approve the minutes dated December 6, 2011.
Second.
Moved and seconded, any discussion on them? All in favor? Minutes of January 10th, 2012.
Motion to approve the minutes dated January 12, 2012.
10th.
Excuse me, January 10th, 2012.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? In new business, first thing we're gonna do is thank Ralph Bartholomew for all his work. So, Ralph has been, I think, 25 years on the Budget Finance Committee. And that kind of dedication to the town is just a wonderful thing, and I think it sets a real example for many volunteers out there who do this stuff, not for the money, but for the service to the town and giving back to the community. I've been pretty close to Ralph on these committees, and I really appreciate all the work that Ralph has done, and I think the town really appreciates it. And Ralph, this certificate is just kind of an appreciation on our part. It never can thank you enough for all the hours that you put in to do this. Truly appreciate it.
Thank you, Joe. And I want to thank all the members of the Select Committee for this privilege, and I really consider it a privilege to have served the citizens of Raymond for all these years. Thank you, Joe.
Thanks, Ralph.
Appreciate that. Now that I'm up at the mic. Raymond is a great town. I can say that only living here for the past 30 years. I've raised my children, and I've been able to participate in a lot of the services that have been available to this town. I guess I consider a big part of the strength and quality of this community lies with the volunteers, lending their time and talent in whether it's the schools or the libraries or the fire and rescue, or even public service here in the town office, in the various committees that are available. I want to thank you again for recognizing this opportunity that you presented me, and I encourage everyone who has that same interest to serve this town in some way. And I want to thank you and appreciate that recognition. And I do understand that from Louise that this allows me free parking anywhere in Raymond for the rest of my years here.
Just put it in your car window.
Absolutely. Thank you again.
Thanks, Ralph.
Thank you.
Okay, next item up on the new business is the Panther Pond Project Phase 2 wrap-up presentation. Betty Williams and Pat Morass.
Good evening. My name is Betty Williams. I'm a senior project manager at the Cumberland County Soil and Water Conservation District. And Pat Morass, you'll hear from shortly from FB Environmental. I want to take you through the wrap-up of the Panther Pond project that Pat and I worked on. Just briefly explaining what this type of grant is and how that came about. Also, what all of the different components are included in a grant like this. And we've got some really amazing before and after photos of some really amazing work that was done on the ground. So I will start with, for those of you who aren't familiar with federal watershed project grants, these come under the Clean Water Act, Section 319. They're administered by the Maine DEP and funded through the US EPA. It's a statewide competitive process, and normally each year they are able to allocate approximately $500,000 to this program, and that is allocated for requests for proposals and that sort of thing. Most of the projects that are funded are either assessment projects, implementation like this one, or watershed management plans for future protection efforts. With the federal grants, there's a match requirement. It's a 40% match requirement overall. So all of the labor, volunteer hours, that sort of thing, anything that was donated throughout this project was able to be tracked and counted towards that requirement. Let's see, what do we got here? The 6 project components included, of course, project management, our steering committee, the MPS abatement projects, residential matching grant component. There's some education and outreach that is conducted, and what we call, I call soil loss or pollutant reduction estimates, and that gives us a means or a number to try to estimate how much soil is kept from entering the pond by implementing the projects that we've been able to do. So first and foremost is the steering committee, which guides all of the project activities. And we were lucky enough to have representation from Panther Pond Association, Raymond Waterways Protective Association, the Town of Raymond, Portland Water District, and Maine DEP. The requirement for this particular project was that we complete 13 MPS abatement projects, and we were actually able to complete 13 projects. The sites were identified originally through the watershed survey that took place back in 2003. And the higher priority sites were dealt with during phase 1, and then the phase 2, which is this one, was left to try to accomplish the high and medium impact sites that were remaining. So I'm not sure if you're aware, you probably are, but I feel like I need to say that roads all over the state, not just here in Raymond, but statewide, gravel roads, public roads, private roads, state roads, you name it, roads are the biggest threat to our lakes, rivers, and streams because of the runoff and the soils and sediments that come off of shoulders, the gravel roads, and the storm water. That all eventually ends up into our lakes and streams. So those, anything that we can do to minimize that input from the roads is going to be a big help. Over the last couple of months, it seemed that culverts were the theme. We had culverts too short, too long, they were broken. Some of the issues were chronic overtopping during rain events. So we looked and fixed a lot of culverts. Some culverts did not have inlet and outlet protection. So some were very simple fixes, putting in riprap and stabilizing that. And some required a little bit more coordination, as in the culvert replacement over on Meadow Road. That took a little coordination with Maine DOT, as well as the town and Grant, and so everything came together anyways, and it worked out, and we're able to address one of the chronic issues that impacted the lake as well. This particular site is up at the northeastern portion of the pond. Camp Hines was an amazing partner. We were able to do several projects on this property along the Tenney River as well as on the banks of the pond. Did a lot of water diversions, bank stabilization, I believe, yeah, we've got the water diverters, the erosion control mulch was installed, and also the coconut fiber rolls were used. They work really well in the banks that are undercut, and you can stake those in, and that really provides some good stability there. In addition, late this fall, we were able to finish up the last portion of this project and really covered up some of the bank that was pretty loose, eroding soil, and then on top of that, there's over 100 feet of fencing installed to try to minimize foot traffic going over the steep bank from the campers and such. So we've got, a designated path to the pond. So it'll let the bank revegetate over time. So it was a good, really good project. The ATV bridges, there were 3 sites identified, one in Raymond, and the 2 others were actually at the top of the watershed and actually sat in Casco. And Norley had been able to address the first one in Raymond, and then was having difficulty with this, with the last 2 sites in Casco. So anyway, we were able to get in touch with the right parties and address some of these issues and try to avoid folks from driving through the stream. This particular stream actually is a fairly large tributary to Panther Pond, so we really wanted to minimize that traffic. So all kinds of helpers during that first site addressed in Raymond, little, tall, small. They were able to replace the decking boards and install boulders in front of the areas where they had been driving through the stream. So hopefully now they have a nice bridge. They'll utilize the bridge a little bit better. The second and third sites up in Casco, we dealt with this past August, September, I guess it was. And as you can see, they're in really poor disrepair. And I think for the most part, these kinds of grants don't typically just go in and build bridges. But in this particular case, it was a means to an end. They weren't using the bridges because they were in poor disarray and were driving through the stream. So we put boulders in front of where they were driving and fixed the bridges. So now, we had, I don't know, I think there were 20 volunteers that day. At one point, we had so many volunteers hammering nails, I was afraid that somebody might get hit. It was really an amazing outpouring of effort from many, many different folks. So there's our boulders, hopefully keeping the traffic vehicles out of the stream. I just want to take a quick minute to really thank the Lakes Region ATV Club who helped pull a lot of this together. The Crooked River Snowmobile Club, Raymond Rattlers Snowmobile Club, Raymond Boy Scout Troop 800, a few of the guys were there to help us that day as well. Volunteers from Panther Pond Association, and also Portland Pipeline and Hancock Lumber, who allowed us to get on there and do some of the modifications that we needed to do. Another one of the components in the project is on education and outreach, and there were requirements for conservation workshops and buffer cruises. So there were 2 buffer cruises, that were conducted as a way to share knowledge about projects that had happened around the pond. So everybody, boards a pontoon boat, and we had a member from I think it was the lake, and was able to take us around and check out some of the sites that had previously been done. It's a great way to show folks what can be done for usually fairly little effort and not a lot of money. So one example is a beautiful rain garden. It's using the natural depression of the property, and we put in, there was lots of water-loving plants and things that grow very well there. And as you can see, from day one to this past summer, it's been a couple of years since that was installed. That looks like it's in pretty good shape. Some of the other conservation workshops were also conducted with, again, lots of volunteers. This particular site, I believe Sloan's Cove Road, if I'm not mistaken, but, you know, stabilizing a path, addressing the roof runoff, all of that ends up, you know, water runs downhill. And if we can slow it down, treat it, and you know, prevent it from running into the lake, then we've accomplished something. So this is, you know, an example of another group effort with some water bars, stabilized pathway, and the end result is something that looks aesthetically pleasing as well as actually works. So, and I think this is where I hand it over to Pat, and he can talk about all of the residential efforts that were done.
Thank you, Betty. And I'm Patrick Maris. I'm a project scientist at FB Environmental out of Portland. And so, as Betty had mentioned, my portion, what I helped out with on this grant was completing the residential matching grant component. And these were smaller projects that you could do, the landowner could pretty much do themselves with the help of a few volunteers. And one of the education and outreach workshops that I had done with a group of volunteers was this driveway had a lot of runoff coming down the road, and it went right through their driveway and down into the lake. And all we ended up having to do was put a 6x6 inch timber at the bottom and then backfill it with some crushed stone. And it really helped to stop that runoff. And we had a great group of volunteers that helped out that day. So it was a really good project. And just a little more on the residential matching grants. They really provide a unique opportunity for the lakefront property owners. You assist them in protecting their property and Panther Pond. You're educating them on small practices that can really help with reducing runoff and their impact on the lake. And these small grants also help to encourage a more sustainable behavior that will help protect Panther Pond in the long run. I'm just going to go through some of the real simple and the approaches that we took to help with these smaller grants. One of the things that we use a lot is this erosion control mulch, which helps to cover the bare soil. It's a really thick mulch, and it helps to cover the soil and hold it in place so it doesn't run into the lake. And so this was done off of Chickadee Lane, where they had some bare soil right next to the lake. And really all we had to do was just bring the mulch in and cover up that soil. So it's a really easy way for the landowner to help protect the lake, and it only took, you know, several hours to haul that mulch down. Here's another site over on River Road where we just placed it. This property had a lot of runoff coming down the road, and so we were able to put this mulch, which holds in place really well, and that helped slow some runoff through their property. Some other practices that you can use are water diverters or rubber raisers, and these help to get the water off the driveways and off of small roads. And these rubber raisers are pretty interesting. It's actually an old piece of conveyor belt a lot of times they're from old paper mills, and you cut the conveyor belt and then sandwich it between 2x6s, bury it into the ground, and the razor itself sticks up above. So when the water hits it, it runs off to the side, but you can actually drive over them. So the rubber just snaps right back up. And we actually had a lot of this rubber was donated to the town of Raymond and Raymond Waterways Protective Association by a paper mill up in northern Maine. So you can also get it at Portland Rubber Company, and there's some other areas. But so these were really great projects that helped the landowners protect their driveways. We also did a lot of driveway and path stabilization. This project on the left, you can see in the before, this is looking up their driveway from the corner of their house. And you can see how the water would just come right off of, this was on Lakeside Drive, and it would come down the driveway and just erode the soil going down. So what we were able to do is just place a couple of those rubber razors across the driveway and then use some erosion control mulch and crushed stone to stabilize that path. So it makes it much more aesthetically pleasing, and it also provides a lot of infiltration and slows the runoff down. We also did quite a few buffer plantings. This one was done on South Shore Road, where you have a nice lawn that goes right up to the edge, and all we ended up doing was just taking, I think it was around 50 blueberry plants, and we planted them right along the shoreline there, and then had a nice 3-foot path of erosion control mulch. So now when the water comes running down that slope, it's able to infiltrate into that, and she now has 50 blueberry bushes that should grow nicely and provide a lot of fun picking for her grandchildren. And this is, Betty had shown this picture earlier. This is one of the rain gardens, and this was a really great project where there was a lot of plants that got put in. And this was another one of the matching grants that we used as a workshop as well. Some more paths and walkways. These were done off of Lakeside Drive. It's just allowing a nice access point for the landowner, and it also really stabilizes the soil. We also did some smaller scale shoreline stabilization. This is off of Meadow Road. You can see the old retaining wall on the left that was in the process of failing. And we were able to provide the landowner with a plan and all the materials they needed. And actually this landowner, George, he was great to work with. He hauled all of this material down his property himself with a wheelbarrow. So it was about 150 yards up. We had it dropped there, and him and his son carried all of these. It was about 10 yards of riprap and another 6 yards of crushed stone that he hauled down all himself. And another way that the residential matching grants worked was if a landowner put in their own time, that was considered match. So their time was counted at about $19 an hour. So George's materials ended up costing around $1,000, but because he put so much of his own time, he had to pay very little money out of pocket because the grant actually covered the cost of those materials. So it was great to have someone that was that enthusiastic about it. And this is just one part of the work that he did. And so you can see how that really stabilizes the soil. He put some plantings around the back. And I will hand it.
Just wanted to give you the last couple of slides, a few total numbers of materials that were installed and footage of shoreline protected, trail stabilized, road surface stabilized again with new gravel or shoulder work. These projects always amaze me when you look at the final numbers and you go, wow, that's a lot of stone, and there's a lot of plants there, and kind of makes me a little tired looking at all that. It's a lot of work. If you want to click, yeah. The other thing I mentioned earlier was the requirement, the 40% matching requirement overall for the grant. This particular grant, we needed to meet a 51,000 match, and we've actually documented just a little over 52,000. We're still counting. There's still a few remaining pieces that haven't been finalized yet. But the other piece that I thought was really quite amazing as well is I totaled up there's over 1,000 volunteer hours over the course of this project that people donated and used their time to get things done and get things on the ground. So And the final component of this project was the pollutant reduction estimates. And through all of the conservation practices that were put in on the ground, we estimated that there was 33 tons of sediment that was kept from entering the pond during phase 2. And during phase 1, I believe, we had, I want to say, it was 73 tons during phase 1. That was with all of the conservation practices that were put in on the ground, saved that much from going into the pond. So over the course of the 2 phases and all of the on-the-ground projects, over 100 tons of sediment has been kept from going into the pond. And the reason I'm emphasizing this so much is whether you're aware or not, you most likely are, the phosphorus particles attach themselves to soil. Soil runs off into the pond, and if there's an excess or a too much of the phosphorus going into the pond, lakes, rivers, you end up with an algae bloom. So we're trying to keep the water, the soil out of the water. Sounds kind of funny, but that's really what we're trying to do. So I think that's the last slide. Last but not least, none of this could have happened, couldn't have happened without all of these partners participating and working together. So just a really big thank you to everyone, the town of Raymond. I've really enjoyed working with everyone and getting to know everybody as well. And thank Patrick too.
Thank you. No, it's great working with Betty, and especially on on those matching grants. We just had Panther had a great group of volunteers, people that are really dedicated to the lake. So it was just great to see that. And they would come out, people that had retired and spend 4 hours digging a ditch to put in those rubber razors. And
Yeah.
it was just great to see landowners that really cared that much about the town and the lake. So it was a great project.
I think one more. That was it. Thank you very much for having us. Appreciate your time. If any questions, we'd be happy to answer it. Or we can get you the final brochure. When that is complete, we'll get the town a copy.
That was a very, very great presentation. I have one question.
Sure.
How do you determine what properties to work on? I mean, I live on the Tenny River, so
Oh, okay.
I observe these kinds of things.
Sure.
And they're,
Well, the original identification of all these sites took place during the watershed survey back in 2002, 2003. So there was a set of sites, and I don't know what the total number was, but those are how we begin to start to attack and start to fix some of these problems. So doing that assessment really helps, that survey assessment to begin with.
is it an ongoing assessment? I mean, are you finished with that area now?
We are finished. What usually happens is Maine DEP will fund the implementation projects that are addressing high impact sites, the really, really, egregious sites, the medium impact sites. Anything that was labeled a low impact, maybe it wasn't very, very big, or just had a minor impact. Those particular sites, they feel are small enough that the landowners can tackle on their own, as long as the landowners are aware of them, of course. So there is a process where the survey results are published. I believe those are on the website, the RWPA website. So that information is available to folks if they'd like to.
Thank you.
Sure.
Carol? What kind of mulch are you using?
Oh, it's called an erosion control mulch, and so it's really it's a lot thicker. It has a lot more stump grindings. You see it a lot if DOT or the town does a project along a bank. It's much thicker. We actually get it from, I believe, New England Organics, up around the Augusta area. They actually come and deliver truckloads of it to the town sand pit, and then we, you know, we're able to go in there and take what we need.
I think the key to that stuff too is it's much coarser than a regular garden mulch type of thing, and it also has some larger gravel stone, so that keeps the weight there, so that helps really, you know, for it to stay put.
And that's an undyed product.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, it's an undyed
That's
product. So it
correct.
looks, you know, it still has that darker color, so you can kind of get some of
Right.
the aesthetics
Right.
of a regular mulch, but, you know, if rain comes through, you know, it's not really going to wash it away like it will
Right.
bark mulch and things like
Right.
that.
Any questions? Great, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for all your work and your presentation.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Plug all that.
Okay, next article is item C. Chris. Planning Board warrant articles for the town meeting.
Good evening. I'm Chris Hansen, the Town of Raymond Code Enforcement Officer. I'm filling in for the town planner, Hugh Cox, who had another obligation tonight. So I'll introduce this as the Planning Board held a public hearing on January 24th, 2012 for the purpose of receiving public input on these warrant articles proposed for the June 2012 town meeting. And the ordinance provisions are described below as, first one is Article 9, Section L of the Raymond Land Use Ordinance, and that's an ordinance that speaks to the sign provisions. And basically what we've done, or the Planning Board has done with this particular ordinance is relaxed the section regarding who can review a permit for a sign in the commercial district. Currently, all new signs or signs that involve any structural element have to go to the Planning Board. And this new warrant article, the new provision would allow staff review unless, with the provision that if it got complicated, it could go back to the Planning Board. So it kind of loosens it up a little bit, which would be a benefit to the local businesses. It wouldn't be as cost prohibitive as going to the Planning Board for a simple sign. The second one, Article 5 of the Land Use Ordinance, is a housekeeping ordinance. Right now, the Land Use Ordinance refers to the BOCA codes of 1996, and because the town of Raymond has more than 4,000 residents, we're mandated by the state to adopt the Maine Uniform Building and Energy Code provisions, and this cleans that article up so that it'll be in line with state law. Section 3, the third one, Section 3 of the Raymond Shoreline zoning provision is the applicability section of that ordinance. Currently, when we adopted the timber harvesting ordinance in the shoreline zone, we tried to mirror the state standards. And because the town of Raymond has a shoreline zone of 600 feet, not 250 feet from a great pond, and we require 100 feet for stream protection rather than 75 feet. In order for the state to assist the town in enforcing timber harvesting in the shoreline zone, we had to mirror their definitions. So we've just changed the applicability section. Doesn't reduce our shoreline zone, it just reduces it for timber harvesting. Following the public hearing, the board voted unanimously to recommend that each of the 3 proposed warrant articles be placed on the 2012 town meeting warrant, and they also voted unanimously to recommend approval of each of the 3 warrant articles.
Accept the select board to also vote a recommendation and to send these to town meeting warrant.
Make a motion to send the 3 articles forwarded and recommended to us by the planning board to the town meeting of, the annual town meeting of 2012 in Raymond.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Charlie?
Chris, on the certificate of occupancy and conforming to the new main, the universal code, there is some discussion in there about fees for re-inspections or going back after the initial building inspection, for instance. Is that going to have any appreciable impact on?
I haven't proposed any fee changes as of yet.
Okay.
The MUBEC codes, because of the energy code, it does require an additional inspection. We have the ability to charge for that. We could charge for the C of O. It does provide for that. Currently, it's included in the building permit fees, and I have not increased those.
Okay, so that's what I'm getting at, though. There could be additional fees attached to this beyond what used to be just a
could.
a building.
If we were to do that, we would do that when we review the fee schedule for the town, and if we felt that we wanted to increase the fees, that would be a discussion we would have then.
Okay, great. And just from my own personal information, Section 9T, backlots, did not come forward to
No, it
us?
did not.
That was part of the public
There
hearing?
was a lot of discussion by a member of the public, local surveyor, and it was brought to the board's attention that there was more housekeeping to do with that ordinance, so they tabled it. We may see that come up again, but not tonight.
Okay, great, thank you.
Any further questions, discussion? All those in favor of sending this to the town meeting? Unanimous? I need a motion now to make recommendations on these ordinances.
I would make a motion that the select board follow the planning board's recommendation and recommend passage of these 3 articles.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Unanimous? Great, thank you, Chris. We now have some abatements in front of us, presented by Kurt LaBelle. Kurt's not here, is that correct?
Yes, Kurt's unable to be with us tonight, so I'm filling in for him. There are 6 abatements. They're attached to the e-packet. They're administrative in nature to correct errors and omissions. The detail is with your e-packet.
Total sum of the abatements would be $1,659.48.
Could I just ask, Mr. Willard, is this a new format that's being utilized by Mr. LaBelle now? I find it extremely helpful, useful.
Yeah, it is a new format. He will probably incrementally make other changes. I think if he were to have had it his way, he probably would have changed it even more radically, but we discussed that, and he's trying to provide as much clarity as possible and to make sure we're compliant in all ways. The thing he might have done, and we can do if you want, I think he was considering putting a selectman signature block on. In the past, they've been considered by the Board of Selectmen, and then you voted, and I've attested to that, but it's not necessary under law, but that's one thing he thought of, and he did have some other changes that he might bring forward, so kind of taking it at a baby step at a time. So this is the first step.
I agree, I think
Yeah,
it's
was good.
very professional looking and actually much easier to read.
As it turns out, Mr. LaBelle is a real expert with the Vision software, which was a good match for us because we're a Vision town, and so we're very happy with that.
Can I have a motion to accept the abatements?
Individually,
Is that,
individually or all at once?
I think we could do them all at once if that's okay.
Make a motion to approve the abatements as presented by the town assessor.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion, questions? All those in favor? Unanimous? Thank you. Okay, under old business now, the first part is the Crown Castle lease. We had our attorneys look over the current lease, sent out a memo with pros and cons on each one. Everyone have a chance to read all these?
Yes.
Any discussion on any of this? Anyone favor one over the other?
Mr. Chairman, I glanced over this, and it seems to me that the larger payment, the initial single payment, would be the best in the interest of the town.
Do you mean the one-time
The one time,
615,000?
yes.
So selling the property.
Basically, that's it, yes.
Well, we have received other offers that extend the possibility of the buyout by extending out the payments and us basically owner financing. I appreciated those counter offers. I also appreciate attorneys' concern to make sure we're not accepting the first offers or any offers that come out. This would be a negotiated sale like you would on any type of negotiation or bargaining, but I agree, as I thought the first time, for what initially is a 15,000 square feet, which is less than half an acre of land that we're basically leasing on top of an old dump, which may or may not have issues, but we've dealt with dump issues in the past over on Egypt Road, and I think in this day and age, not knowing where technologies will be in 5 or 10 years, that this is a great opportunity for Raymond to bring in some much-needed revenue, and in turn, by applying that revenue judiciously, we may save not potentially even in the what we may get by just letting it sit in an account at less than 1%, but actually applying it to needed capital improvements, where we may be sending those out to bond and paying 3 or 4% in interest over 10 years. So I agree with Sam that that would be a direction that we would still want to pursue. Obviously, I think there's, what, 4 or 5 years still left, or 8 years?
8 years.
8 years left on the existing lease, so none of us know how long this offer would stay on the table. I don't think we have to jump at it, but we should continue to pursue it and see if we can fine-tune their offer to us and look at a sale.
I agree.
Does someone have a number in their mind that they would like to make a counteroffer on? Fine.
How do you value it? I mean, how do we sit here and value it? Do we hire somebody and spend a little money to value it? Is this a specialty item that, you know, a local appraiser wouldn't be able to value? I guess I'm at a little bit of a loss here as to how you would value something like this. I'm guessing that the tower that we just had a vote on in town, that the parties up there were in a sale situation, or were they in a lease situation? I don't remember.
That was a lease.
It was a lease.
That's a lease
They were-
also.
They were discussing a lease. I don't even know where it is right now.
Yeah.
So,
I would tell you that there are people who could give you an appraisal, and I think that would be a smart thing to do. Within reason, I wouldn't go crazy spending tremendous amount of money, but when you're looking at the magnitude of this sale, I think it only makes sense to do your diligence and to make sure, to make certain what the value is as near as you can.
What do people think about bringing in someone to evaluate what they would perceive to be the value of this property in a lease negotiation, then authorizing the town manager to make an offer to Crown Castle?
Well, if going on my past practice, I had asked, staying consistent on the Cumberland County Center renovation. One thing I always believed in that issue we needed to know was what is the value of the property, what is the value of the building. Without that, I don't think you can do your due diligence. I'd be all in favor of it. I couldn't be anywhere otherwise in that case to try to get an opinion, at least from a more qualified source, to tell us, based on the experience in the telecommunications industry, what's happening nationally, nationwide, based on our demographics of the town of Raymond, what is this property worth?
Is there such a person?
What I would suggest along the line of what Charlie's saying, this is how you would fund it, I think, because this is an unforeseen expense, something unanticipated. You could authorize an amount of money if you wanted to do that, or ceiling.
I
Or
think
you could authorize me to do this, to seek somebody to do this,
Yeah,
and
I
pay
think-
for it from the undesignated reserve.
Yeah, I think that's the only option you have.
Because I don't know what it's going to cost, but I don't think I don't think this is going to be a tremendously expensive thing to do, but I don't know.
My guess would be between $5,000 and $10,000.
That would be my guess as well.
That would be my guess as well, and I'm only leery on the aspect of hiring someone that doesn't have the prior experience of something of this magnitude.
That's
And not
right.
Looking at it as the town of Raymond, but also, throughout New England with that person.
Right.
It may not be someone from Maine. It may be someone from outside of Maine.
What I would do is, with your consent, of course, is to check with our attorneys at Bernstein Sure. It seems that our attorney has some experience with this, does follow national trends, may be able to make a recommendation on somebody, probably, good chance not from Maine, but somebody who has the experience to do this.
So while we have a motion to allow Don to pursue bringing in someone to evaluate this property,
So moved.
Second it.
moved and seconded, get back to us.
I'll get back to you before I do anything,
Yep.
and probably have it on another agenda so you can,
Yep.
I'll let you know what I find out.
Does that sound reasonable, everybody? All those in favor? Great, thank you.
Joe, I'll throw one more thing out if I can.
Okay.
The buyout here is proposing 4% interest, and if we were a bond bank or we were an institution in a position to borrow money at 4%, that's our job. We are not that. We are it's close, in this instance, I think we are a private entity, and I think 4% interest financing from a private entity is low.
I think you would have to look at it from a prime plus standpoint. And you have a floating bond. That's how most private businesses work with banks. So,
And I just, it's a big number, but I just think 4% for us, for that, is not enough.
my guess is, depending on this amount, prime plus 2, prime plus 2.5, somewhere in there. And it floats with the bond.
And
So
prime's
prime's at 3.25 right now. So,
I was 5.5% in my thoughts.
Yeah.
So,
I think
just throw that out as a part of the consideration as we move forward.
That's if we're gonna self-fund it.
Correct.
Right.
And the other thing, naturally, we do need to make sure, as the attorneys pointed out, that we perfect the language more to our advantage in the end, and we also protect any potential uses we might have for the remaining property.
Yep. You gotta make sure about easements and all those things too.
We wouldn't want to do anything that would encumber the existing it's a dump site, but but it's not an open dump by any means at this point. It's a usable property by the town.
Okay. Next, on the ordinances, is the animal noise ordinance. We've had 3 discussions on this. I don't know if you all saw the email, or if you checked your box today, you had something from Susan Fielder, the animal control officer, in your box, and an email. I guess I need a sense of the board whether they want to send an ordinance like this to town meeting. Before we go down the road of discussing what needs to be in the ordinance. Mike?
Taking the parties out that brought this to our attention and thinking of it as a town issue, whether the parties involved in this have solved their issue amongst themselves or not, that doesn't change the fact that this is probably a town issue. I think the barking dog ordinance is important to the town, and it gives neighbors an opportunity to, if they can't figure it out amongst themselves, it gives them another opportunity. And I do think that an animal noise ordinance, especially given some of the neighborhoods we have in our town, even though we are a rural town, that an animal noise ordinance would not be a bad thing for the town, and I would like to send it forward and see what the public thinks.
Okay. You have a memo from Dennis Morse, who offered to act as a mediator in this dispute among the neighbors. It seems like there was some progress made. They were agreeing to keep the animals in the barn until 6:30 in the morning. There's a pen being built out in back of the barn, so the animals would go to the back versus the front. Some insulation being installed into the barn. So I guess there was some progress made on the mediation side. Charlie?
Well, I guess I know this is our time to speak and the public has an opportunity to speak, but I'm kind of at a loss to speak in advance of trying to undercut the value of neighborhood negotiations and resolving of problems. So based on the memo and based on what I believe to have been the good work of Mr. Morse and the parties involved, I'd really like to know where they stand on it. Is this issue one that we can now, as a town, step back, see as neighbors, we could resolve a problem, and then, if we have to, come back next year with something more? And I can't speak to that, Wayne would be the chair, but I'd like to know how the parties feel. Yeah.
Hang on.
Nope, sorry.
I'm running the meeting.
No.
You know, my issue is if we do not do anything now, you have to go a whole year before you deal with it again. So we have the opportunity in front of us to deal with this now, if we want to, or, you know, we'll take some feedback from the people in the audience here in a second. But I'd like to keep the discussion at the board level for a couple more minutes anyway.
And if there'd still be a public
You still have
hearing.
well, all we're saying right now is, do we want to send this to a public hearing in March?
Right.
We're not moving forward with sending it to the town meeting yet. The discussion really is, do we want to hold a public hearing in March on this ordinance or not? So that's really where we're at. What?
I would think we should. I would think we should hear from the rest of the town people. This has been an ongoing item, I can call it, and you hate to just throw the work that we've done and the town people have done to the wayside, and then in a year from now, when and if there's a couple parties that are disagreeing, then they'd have to say start at step one again. I think it's time for the town, the rest of the town, to put put in their 2 cents of how they feel.
Sam?
Well, I'm doing somewhat of a turnaround on this because in general, overall, I'm not in favor of the government getting too involved in neighborhoods, for example. But as the draft, or as the amendments were added to the barking dog ordinance, and since we have not made much progress, I thank Dennis for his efforts, but it sounds like we have not made a lot of progress in this. In other words, we haven't fixed it. I agree that we should send it forward. It just adds one more little thing, well, little, to the neighbors. It's not little, but it just adds one more thing to the dog ordinance, and that's already in effect.
Lonnie?
I agree with Mr. Gifford. I do not want our town to be, mandated with all of these different rules and regs and all of that. But I do believe that our animal control officer has put a lot of time
Yes.
into pulling all of this together, getting different scenarios from different towns and what is working for them. And we are pushing this forward because of two parties that seem to be on the right track. But those are the two people that are bringing it to our attention. We're not sure of the people that are at home hoping it goes one way or the other. So, again, I feel that we should bring it to the town.
To at least
but
have
I'm
a
not-
public hearing.
To at least have a public hearing.
Right.
But me as personally, I do not want to be controlled by any more rules and regs that are brought forward, but
Yeah, I
that's
think,
for the rest of the town.
but, I'm not speaking for the entire select board, but I hate more ordinances than we need.
Yes, I agree.
The least amount, the better, but I also think we have a big problem here that we need to somehow step in and try and solve some way. All right, I'm gonna listen to Mr. Gelston first, and then Ms. Sutherland, I'm sure you want to say something also, and then I'll hear from Susan Fielder also.
Hi, I'm Wayne Gelston, 46 Ledge Hill Road. We did go to the mediation, and we were hopeful that we could come to some sort of an agreement that would work for all of us. Dennis Morris was very nice. We had a nice long conversation. Things went pretty well. They did mention they are building a pen behind the barn, which is nice, but they also mentioned that when they're home, the birds come out front, not in the back of the barn. The other thing they mentioned was if I gave them $500,000, they'd move. I don't have that kind of money. And the third thing was they got more roosters, which tells me they're not very sincere about addressing the problem. Thanks.
Okay, Ms. Sutherland? If you don't have to, it's up to you if you want to add anything.
Think I'm going to sit and be quiet? No.
No.
My name is Julie. I live at 51 Ledge Hill Road. Mediation was okay. Yes, I did get 3 more roosters in November. I rescued the roosters. They were thrown away in the woods in Casco. I helped Sue Field to catch them. Roosters had no place to go. Since my knowledge of the roosters, and since I use them for agricultural purposes, I brought them home. 3 little Bantam roosters. I'm not a cold-hearted person. I'm not going to leave them out in the woods to freeze to death and starve to death. And the Gilstons flipped out about it at mediation. And secondly, the Gilstons want nothing but the roosters to be completely gone. Yes, we're building a coop on the back, which the roosters will have free access to go in and out when I'm not home, as I told you before. When I am home, the roosters will be out free ranging, as we do use them for agricultural purposes. And it's a good security system for the barn. When somebody strange comes near the barn or an animal comes near the barn, the roosters will scream and yell.
Could I just ask, what is the agricultural purpose that you?
Insect control
Okay.
for the horses, for the dogs, for the barnyard, for black flies, for us. As I told you before, that as long as the roosters were out having free range, never left the yard, was in the backyard, the barnyard. Horses didn't have ticks, dogs didn't have ticks, cats didn't have ticks, I didn't have ticks. Black flies were down, brown flies were down. Put the roosters in the barn because of the hybrids, covered with ticks. I have bought in the special insulation for the barn, $90 a roll. It's real thin stuff, help insulate the barn for sound and things. And it's going up. Yes, we did offer for the Gelsons to buy our place. We have broken no ordinances, no laws, no rules, state, town, or county. We're rural. We use them for agricultural purpose. I have every legal right to have my roosters. Because of one person wasted so much time, so much tax money, payers' money. You know, us farmers, us animal lovers, we have a right to have our animals. We are rural. You know, I've bent over backwards. I've made all the concessions. You know, all they want, and they stated it several times during mediation, they want the roosters gone. Not happening. It is not happening. I also got them to admit, by another conversation that happened in mediation, I gave all our neighbors nice, beautiful Christmas cards. Topic was brought up. Gelsons go, yeah, if you didn't sign it, the roosters. Didn't sign it, the roosters. I told them to present it. I called them a liar. They admitted, they lied. It was signed, Merry Christmas, Julie, John, and the gang. So that tells me how good is their credible word.
Okay, we don't need to
Yeah, that's.
get into that kind of stuff, okay?
It's a waste of time. You're
Well-
wasting tax money, you're wasting people's time. I've had to make arrangements, even for mediation. I had to change my schedule because they couldn't go on a Monday night when Dennis could go. So we had to change it to Wednesday. I've changed my lifestyle, I've changed my animal schedules. I'm not changing no more. I have every legal right and I'm in my legal rights.
No one's saying you broke the law. We're discussing whether or not an ordinance needs to go to town
Okay,
meeting.
when is it gonna stop? The people across the street have sheep, they black all day long. They have pigs, they squeal all day long. 3 houses up from us got chickens and roosters. 4 houses up from us got chickens and roosters. There's new people moving in the neighborhood who have alpaca farm, horses. When are you going to stop with the ordinances? Are you gonna stop putting ordinances on crows and everything else that make a noise? My horses are out running around. It's nice today. They're yelling, they're neighing, they're having fun. My puppy's out playing, barking. What are you gonna do? Make ordinance so my horses can't neigh? When they neigh, I have to go out and put them in? All the cows up the corner of Valley and Raymond Hill Road, they're out there. Nice weather, they're talking. This is out of the limits. And I'm not the only one who feels this. You'll find out in March.
Okay. Any questions, Mr. Say?
Mr. Chairman, I'm just wondering if the animal control officer has any input on
Yep,
this as well.
she was up next.
Do you have a specific question?
No, I just wondering what your take on
I gave you
that.
guys the, on their issue, I honestly don't think we're ever going to get anywhere. I will admit, I've talked to both sides. I know Dennis worked on a mediation, and I know the Sutherland Russos have kind of gone along with everything I've suggested and you've suggested, and it doesn't appear, no matter what we do, it's gonna be enough. I'll be honest, I'm not sure the noise ordinance is going to actually rectify the problem, but I think at this point, you have to send it to the town and let the town decide what they want to do. My concern was, as you saw, I gave you some stuff to put together a suggestion. The one that I was showed that the town was going to look into doing, that was the original one that I was sent to review. You're going to increase your budget big time, because you're going to get people that are up here just for the summer or whatever. They're going to find out the ordinance is 10 minutes. We're going to be running all over the place trying to find stuff. It's just unrealistic. We are a rural area, so I think we need to have longer times. I agree. If somebody is hearing noises on and on, I've been on both sides of this, so I can tell you from personal experience. When you're listening to dogs bark all the time, whether it's dogs or whatever, you know, it gets irritating. And when you ask them over and over and they won't do anything, yes, then we can step in. So I can certainly understand how a bird or another animal might be. I think we'll have problems down the road, maybe with some of the agricultural issues if we get into some of the, you know, cows and horses and different things. But I think, you know, I don't think at this point we're going to be able to do it. The town's going to have to make that decision. But we do have to make it a reasonable time frame, and we have to make it fair for both sides, not just...
You know, most of these things are solved at the neighbor level.
Right.
Exactly.
You know, if you have an incessant barking or incessant noise, you go ask the neighbor and say, you know, can you do something just to help me out? I don't think we're getting that here, okay?
Yeah.
So the fact is, people are gonna need a fallback position, and maybe this ordinance is the fallback position, I don't know. But I think we need to bring it forward. I think the simpler, the better.
Right.
And then we can make amendments to this after the public hearing. The way it works is you have a public hearing, and then you can amend what you have on paper. And I think that's the simplest way to go, to see what people's reactions are. Or you can actually say, no, we're not sending it to town meeting, we've heard enough, and this is a neighbor dispute, and we're not getting involved. So there are options here.
I just want to say that I don't think that you're going to be overrun with calls. In my experience over my career, this is unique. And the barking dog's not unique. I think that's going to continue as it has. I don't think you're going to see a proliferation of animal noise issues.
If you make an animal noise ordinance for 10 minutes, you are.
Well, you can adjust timelines and other details.
I understand that.
After the public comment period, the public hearing, you could change that, but...
I mean, we asked you last meeting, Sue, about how many times have you been called on the barking dog ordinance?
Well, I didn't want to get into certain, we get a lot of calls on it. There's a couple areas that are primary, and there's reasons why nothing's being done about it. It's not something I choose to discuss here in public tonight. But I will tell you, most of the time we ask the people to talk to their neighbor first before we come in. Now, if they're afraid of the neighbor or whatever, we'll come in and do that. My personal opinion is we should figure out what we're going to do, and we have the public hearing, present something to them, and then let them go from there. And obviously, then you guys can take it back under advisement. But I'll be honest, and again, it's not something that I can really explain all in a few minutes here, but there are some issues with the barking dog ordinance as it is. I have not had the ability to change that or manipulate that until now. And if we're going to change it, I'd like to address some of those issues before we, you know, make it solid.
Yeah.
As long as you're up there, I have one question about this, and you kind of bring it up yourself. Supposing this does go through, and we're jumping ahead here quite a bit, but supposing it goes through, is it enforceable realistically?
Well, that's kind of why I think the way we wrote it, I mean, obviously it needs to be checked by an attorney, but in talking with many of the states and municipalities, both here in New England, out west, and all over the place, that was kind of one of their problems. And when speaking with a couple of the ADAs that we work with, that I work with when I take cases to court, they kind of gave us some hints on things that we kind of need to do in case we do take it to court. And some of it is in the stuff that I gave you, the little noise log, and making sure that we have a policy for the animal control officer, so everybody does it similar, so there's something in writing. So when the judge says, well, what's your policy? We can put it on the table, because we have run into those, and that they're really not listening to a lot of cases if they're not documented a very certain way. And we've asked multiple ADAs that we work with, and I was able to speak with one judge how they preferred it, and that's kind of included in my policy of how we would, you know, act, which could be adapted to any of them. But the reason for that is to build the case, so if we end up taking it to court, we start from day one. If we take it to court, we have all the information. I don't want to waste the town's money by taking somebody to court
Right.
if we're not going to win the case or have every chance of winning the case. Also, I think it's very important that we put some onus back onto the complainant. It can't be a free-for-all that the complainant just complains and doesn't do anything. They're gonna have to start keeping a log in times, because the court's gonna require that
Right.
if we get to that point. And there are issues, this one may be one of them, that we are gonna end up having to go to court, and we're gonna have to have it documented so that we can go to court. And when I did this, and again, I'm not a lawyer, when I talked to all the towns in the states that have done this, part of the reason for the revisions of what we did is because they've taken a lot of these cases to court, lost and redone them and gone back, and, you know, they're now getting them pretty well nailed down so that they can enforce them, and that was kind of my reasoning for what we were doing.
Thank you.
The laws that, and I'm not saying specifically the law that you guys wrote, but like our dog ordinance and stuff, when we discussed those, some of those weren't enforceable. I don't know if our specific one is, because I didn't have them look at that, but that was part of the problem. They were too general, and we weren't able to enforce them.
Thank you very much.
This log that we were presented with is different than the ordinance. That's just a mechanism
Right.
to, yeah.
That's not part of,
That
that's
doesn't
just
need to be
a,
part of the ordinance.
that will probably be involved with any ordinance that we have, whatever.
Right.
We stick with the old one or whatever. The courts are now asking for this information
Yeah.
in order for us to pursue a case.
Okay.
Well, Mr. Chairman, my opinion is it should go before we leave it up to the citizens. the
Have a
voters.
you want to have a public hearing
Yeah.
based on this
That's my vote.
simple ordinance that's in front of us, and we can amend it
Yeah, as
depending
long as we
on
can
the
amend it.
results of the public hearing? Is that,
Well, after hearing this, I'm not sure that simple one is the right one to send to public hearing.
I would think that we would want Ms. Fielder to put more time into it to get something that will be, because why put something forth if it's inferior?
well, you can amend it. I mean, you know, if you're going to wait for her to come back, then you're into March's meeting, and it's too late.
So just roll with what we have, and then we can amend from there.
That's.
Well, could you have, can you have the attorney look at what we've already written and see what he feels about it?
The other thing I'll tell you is
Sure.
the attorney has looked at this,
Yeah.
okay? And with all due respect, I mean, I'm sure you've done your research across the United States or whatever, state of Maine, as you said, but Bernstein sure has looked at this, has reviewed this, has passed on this.
The simple one?
The
Did Joe
simple
just?
one.
Okay, thank you.
You can change it after the public hearing if you want to. The town meeting in and of itself constitutes, I'm assuming, unless are you putting on a ballot? How are you going to do this? Ballot on it?
Well, it all depends on the results of the public hearing.
Okay, if you decide to go forward, but, you know, I'd suggest that you make your amendments after you get some more public discussion.
I
I
totally
quite agree.
So,
Yeah.
Charlie?
And the only comment I will make, and I will, based on, and thank you all for the input, because we need that type of input to go forward. And I'm going to say go forward with the public hearing. I do, with all due respect to our attorneys. I just want to point out that this very simple, and I'll call this the Greg Foster review. Where we're going with our barking dog ordinance, which was pretty vague, we used to say no person shall own a dog which by loud, infrequent, and habitual barking. We are now going to, and this is great moneymakers for lawyers, we are going to, it shall be a violation to keep any animal which unreasonably causes annoyance, forget all the other things, just keep that in mind, unreasonably causes annoyance beyond the boundary of the owner or the keeper's property. So when we talk about simple language, that's pretty simple language. And the reason why I bring up Greg Foster is many years ago, we were having a public hearing, and he said, when will the ordinances stop when my barbecue smoke goes into my neighbor's yard? Will we then start to control that? So again, with all due respect to the attorneys, I see this not as a simple issue, but extremely complex, and will say we should probably go forward to a public hearing.
I agree.
Okay, so is that a motion?
I would wait for someone else to make a motion.
Well, make the motion.
I want to make sure we have a second. Sam. So
I'll second it. promise.
I'll defer. No, I'll defer.
promise.
No, it's okay.
Will somebody make a motion to send this to a public hearing?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded.
See?
That's good.
All those in favor? Okay. March 7th, a public hearing. Is it 6th? Whatever that Tuesday is. 6th, yeah, that's right. We have 29 days in February. Yep. Okay. Chris, you want to talk about this PACE loan ordinance? I skipped over the recall one. All right, go ahead with the PACE.
wanna go ahead with that?
And then, yeah, go with the PACE and then we'll come back.
I'm Chris Hansen, Code Officer, Town of Raymond. The last meeting, we discussed what the PACE program involved, and we chose to move forward with having the town attorney review the model ordinance that was proposed by the Maine Efficiency Maine. So this is just actually the model ordinance that they proposed, touched up by our town attorney, and it's ready to go to be put forth for the town meeting.
It's got to go to a public hearing, doesn't it?
Yes, it
It
would.
does?
Yes.
Such a...
I have a motion to allow the PACE ordinance together with public hearing next month.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Okay. PACE will be at the public hearing. Next one is the recall on the appointment ordinance. We've discussed this a few times now, made some changes as far as the percentage of signatures required.
Make a motion, we send the recall ordinance to public hearing in March.
Second.
It's a recall and appointment ordinance also.
Oh, excuse me. Make a motion, we send the recall and appointment ordinance to the public hearing in March.
Second.
Moved and seconded, any discussion?
I would just like to clarify again, because we've had an ongoing discussion regarding the percentage.
Yep.
And I was swayed dramatically by the chairman's impassioned presentation the first time about making sure we set the bar high. And I believe at that time you had recommended a 25%. I could see where that was not maybe amenable to the whole community, particularly to the two proposers from the community who brought this forward. And then we had a discussion, and I think if you review the approved minutes that we approved tonight, those are the written minutes, not the video minutes, but then the number was settled on at 15%,
Yep.
which we believe to be what most municipalities were doing in the state of Maine. And now I see in the final rewrite, it's at the 10%, which is at the state level.
Yeah, it should say 15.
I think we'll have to check that. I proposed 15 originally when I asked for the change. And after our discussion, it was lowered to 10.
I'm sorry, I have it wrong in the written minutes, I apologize. Because I checked
That's
the
all right.
DVD before I did the actual ordinance.
Ordinance.
I proposed 15, we discussed it, and then it was brought down to 10 because the gubernatorial election was so high.
That's
Okay.
right.
There's other ones that
All right, so we're at 10 right now. Okay. As with any ordinance that goes to public hearing, they can be amended.
Okay. And that, I just needed that clarification,
Yep, no.
because that number had bounced around and there had
Yeah,
been
no,
presentations.
I remember 15 myself. And,
Yeah.
yeah, so. Okay. Any further discussion?
Jeff,
Yeah.
can we talk? Are we allowed to make a comment or no? It's a
Well,
question of it.
I let people talk on the animal ordinance, but, so if you want to quickly say something, I'll let
Do you
you.
think I'm long-winded?
No, I would never say that.
Teresa Sadak, Webbs Mills Road. I just have, I guess, some questions about this. In this ordinance, you're putting the recall of a person, but you're also putting in the re-nomination of somebody in the same one, correct?
Appointment, yep.
I guess I would suggest that you do those as two separate documents, because you're talking about putting somebody into a position that's going to be making decisions, for the town.
And what you're saying right now, you can come to the public hearing and say that.
Okay, all right. No,
Right.
and I can do that. And I guess the only other question too was, I just went blank. Never mind. Sorry.
So I didn't mean to interrupt, but.
No, that's okay.
But that's the kind of feedback we want at a public hearing.
Okay, and I guess the other one is the sense that the quorum. I mean, as far as how many people have to be there to pick somebody. Because I know that was a discussion at the last meeting. Out of 3 people, can 2 people actually make that decision as to who to appoint?
Well, it's no different than having a quorum for any regular meeting.
So any other meeting then in town, as far as picking a different appointed official, you can have 2 people out of a board pick somebody for that position, is what you're saying?
And I think what we're trying, and I don't, and
And I'm just
I don't want to
questioning you, I'm
get
not-
into the discussion.
Right.
But I think that the reasoning behind it was that a quorum is a quorum no matter what. So if no one shows up and you have a quorum, the majority of that quorum is a valid meeting and can make an appointment, yes.
So with that person, and I'm not criticizing, I'm just actually just getting clarification. So that person would just fill in until the next election, then, is what it would be?
Yeah.
Okay, and this would go for any board?
No,
No,
This is just the
just the
selectmen?
elected,
It's just elected
any
boards.
elected board.
elected board. There will be no appointment on a recall.
Right.
That'll go to election.
Yeah.
And there'll be no appointment on the Budget Finance Committee because they're an elected board and we have no jurisdiction over the school board.
Okay, and boy, I'm slow tonight. So what you're saying, okay, just as the selectmen as an example, okay, someone's recalled. This would go to election, is what it
And
is?
then you have an election after that, yeah.
Okay, so you're not saying that 2 of you guys would pick?
Absolutely not.
Then I read it wrong. Okay.
Okay.
If one of us resigned, that's when 2 people
A
could
vacancy
fill
can be filled.
the vacancy. If it was a resignation, a death, moving out of state, not a recall.
But it's only for fulfilling the end of that person's term?
That's
Yes.
correct.
For that year, but say they're like 3-year term, they wouldn't stay on for the whole 3 years?
No.
They would just stay that short period as to
To the
when?
next municipal
The last
election,
election.
Okay, all right.
And if it's less than, I don't know.
90 days.
If it's less than 90 days, it stays open until the next election.
Okay, then I was, all right. Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else? Okay. So all in favor of sending it to the public hearing on March 6th? Unanimous? Okay, I am going to take an item out of sequence here and allow public comment now before we go into executive session. Anyone willing to speak, wanting to speak to the select board? Peter?
My name is Peter Levitt, 2 Levitt Road, Raymond, Maine. By training, I'm a respiratory therapist. Since 1985, I've been employed at a 220-bed acute care facility in Lewiston. I'm the director of cardiopulmonary and sleep there. I served both as a member and chair of the Zoning Board of Appeals since 1989. I have consecutively been reappointed to that position by the selectmen. I provide you with my work and my civic history because what I want to do is demonstrate that I have some knowledge of committees and Robert's Rules of Order. My brother is Selectman Levitt. So so I think I've done all the disclosures I need to. My public comments tonight pertain to the concerns regarding a personal attack on Selectman Levitt at the January meeting by Ms. Sadak, and also some questions about process as far as the bylaws of the Selectmen and maintaining order under Robert's rules. Ms. Sadak spoke for approximately 8 minutes, expressing outrage at the actions of Selectman Levitt at these public meetings, and accused him of, quote, degrading, humiliating, and belittling town officials, town employees, town volunteers, and citizens. To summarize her grievances, Mr. Levitt accused the former fire chief of, quote, making deals behind closed doors. He humiliated the present fire chief by, quote, pretty much stating that he is not good enough for the job. He accused town employees of abusing their jobs by unauthorized use of town equipment and facilities. And he, quote, micromanages the town manager and doesn't go through the chair of this board. Ms. Sadak concludes that her comments are not an attack, but rather, quote, I'm just stating facts that have happened at meetings and in newspapers. I submit to this board and to the public that that was in fact a personal attack on the character of Selectman Levitt. As far as the stated facts, I refer this board and the public to the official minutes, which are the DVD, of the October and the November meeting. At the October meeting, during the discussion regarding the appointment of the new fire chief, Mr. Levitt states, quote, I don't disagree with anything the town manager has said, end quote, regarding his 100% support of the appointment. Quote, I commend Dennis. I commend Bruce. My concerns are in regard to the selection process and to the proposed change to the current model, end quote. The former fire chief concludes his discussion with, quote, I want to thank everyone for their comments. I certainly understand where Charlie is coming from, end quote. During the November meeting regarding Mr. Levitt's request for a review of surrounding towns' policies on employee use of town property and facilities, he states clearly, quote, this is not an accusation that is unapproved use is being done. However, there have been citizen complaints brought to the town manager and myself, end quote. If this statement is construed as disrespectful, surely statements made by the town manager such as, quote, you're grandstanding for the audience, quote, have a nice day, and or that Mr. Levitt's request is, quote, unfounded and based on cynical anecdotes, must also be considered disrespectful. Likewise, if standing up and applauding and not applauding the former fire chief is disrespectful, I suggest that every Maine state legislator that did not stand up and applaud the governor at the end of his State of the State address is also disrespectful. I don't believe that's true. I believe that's politics. What I do find troubling is witnessing a select member applauding Ms. Sadak's attack. If anybody has a question about that, go to the record. I find that very troubling. So this brings me to my primary concern, which is non-compliance with the bylaws of this select board. So just to go down the list briefly. Section 3, Officers and their duties, third paragraph. This section does not prevent the Board of Selectmen from appointing committees or commissions of its own members or citizens to conduct investigations into the conduct of any official or department or matter relating to the welfare of the town. Section 4, chairman privileges. As it is the function of the chairman to preserve order and provide a fair hearing, the chairman shall reserve the right to speak first and last on any subject before the board. I've had a little experience with being the chair. I understand how Roberts works, and it's good. But it's kind of like a chairman of a committee is the dealer at a blackjack table. You get a couple of points. Section 11, public access to the board. No public comment shall be allowed which has the effect of embarrassing or attacking the character of any individual or board member. No complaints or allegations will be allowed in public concerning any staff member or any person connected to the Town of Raymond organization. Complaints will be referred to the town manager or the selectman. The complaints will be investigated. If unresolved, the issue will be brought to the Board of Selectmen. It's not aired here. Section 23, function of the board. While in office, all board members are to maintain dignity and respect for all members of the board. My observations are as follows. Over the last year, with the exception of Mr. Gifford and Mr. Reynolds, I have witnessed every member of the board, and the town manager be disrespectful. This is in violation of Section 23 and should be addressed by the chairman. Ms. Sadak should have been directed to the town manager if she had a complaint regarding Mr. Levitt per Section 11. The chairman should have ruled Ms. Sadak out of order as soon as she began a personal attack on the character of Selectman Levitt per Sections 4 and 11. The chairman should have also maintained the dignity and respect of the board members by controlling the meeting within the guidelines of the bylaws. I believe that the selectmen are politicians by virtue of your elected status. I believe that politics on this board are not different from other boards in our area, and for that matter, not different from the state and national level. This being said, I look to the chairman to maintain the process outlined in the bylaws to preserve order and provide a fair hearing despite his or any other member's politics. Lastly, let me state that I am aware of inappropriate behavior by members of the board and the town manager, which take place after the video camera is shut off. Threats of physical harm are never acceptable. I will make it my task to be at as many future select meetings as possible to monitor the behavior of this board after the cameras are shut off. If inappropriate behavior is observed, I will file a complaint with the town manager or the selectmen per Section 11. If there's no satisfactory remedy for my complaint, I will inform the public of this behavior through the press.
Okay. Yep.
Teresa Sadak, Webbs Mills Road. Thank you, Mr. Levitt, for those comments, and I still stand behind my speech that I gave the other night. The attack was not, as far as the comments that I made were off of meetings. It was not a personal attack, and I said that at the end. It was an attack. It was me commenting and questioning your ethics as far as a selectman in this town. When you're talking about airing public, I'm going to direct myself to you. He's talking about airing public issues. Mr. Levitt aired public comments about town officials, about how processes were done, without going to Don Willard or without going to you, Joe, which was wrong. I still stand behind what I say. I feel strongly about it, and this is a small town, so what the government does as far as anything else, it was a direct slap in the face to Dennis Morse that night, and everything I said does stand on video and I will stand behind it. And Mr. Levitt, you pick and choose what you want to see in these meetings. But if you watch the whole thing, I think it's only fair that you need to take in context everything that he had said instead of picking out little things here and there. Thank you. And by the way, thank you guys, honestly, for the job that you do. It is hard, you volunteer. But the town people do not have to put up with that. So you can go to the public with this.
Any further public comment? Okay.
Just a point of information,
Yep.
Mr. Chairman. I would like to follow up, just so we do have some guidance for the board over these public hearings. In a correspondence to you from another constituent and forwarded to you and Mr. Willard, it was asked about the same issues regarding the bylaws and the issues of attack and embarrassing comments and the way that is done in a public hearing. So I guess your response to the constituent who sent you an email regarding this, you concluded that Ms. Sadak was not attacking but discussing the actions committed. And if they were comments of personal actions, I would not have allowed them. So I guess I need, and I think it would be great for the rest of the board to have some guidance as to what are the rules and how we conduct these public hearings, because I can see this degenerating, not to the benefit of the community, and I certainly know the definition of community. I also know the definition of democracy. And democracy overrules community when it comes to issues of process. The community has rights, and then the democracy has a system. And this is I need to and would like to have some system, because I can see this degenerating into if we continue to allow these interpretations of the bylaws to exist, we may end up regretting what we'll see in future meetings, and I don't think that's what this community standard would appreciate. So I guess I need some guidance on what do we mean by embarrassment and personal attack and with the public when they come to speak.
As the Supreme Court said with pornography, I know it when I see it. The chairman of any board has lots of discretion, and it's up to the chair to control any meeting. So even under Robert's rules, that's the way it's stated. So those are your guidelines. The chairman will make the decisions on what is appropriate and what is not appropriate.
So if a member of the public comes up and says that any member of this board is always belligerent, always negative, is disrespectful, is abusing the selectman position, publicly humiliates and surprise attacks members of the public, the board, and employees, that's all acceptable. We'll know it when we see it.
Right. It's up to the chairman to control the meeting.
Point of order.
That does speak to itself as a point of order, but I won't go there. A point of order requires a second.
Yeah, exactly.
Obviously, I think you fancy yourself an expert on Robert's rules, but if you haven't read Robert's rules, you'll know. Okay.
I would like to speak on that matter. Public.
On the public comment?
Yes, yes.
Go right ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Charles Levitt, 14 Levitt Road, East Raymond Hill. I want to thank both the chairman and the town manager for the letter of appreciation that was sent to former selectman Dana Desjardins. Again, I'm not going to quibble over whether someone stands up or sits down while they're applauding, but I do recognize and see it, as I call it, when a letter of appreciation is sent out for the actions of a citizen in this town. I think it should be recognized, and I'm sure Mr. Willard would have recognized it during the town manager communications, but I just wanted to personally thank both the chairman and the town manager for that action.
Thank you. Okay, you know what, why don't we continue down the town manager report?
Yes, I did.
And then we'll hold the executive session until last.
So the meeting with the Budget Finance Committee to consider the FY 2012-13 municipal budget will be on February 28th here in this building. Will be televised. The next regular meeting and public hearing will be on March 6th. We have posted on the website that the Republican caucus is at 7 p.m. at the town office on Thursday, February 9th. The Democrat caucus is February 26th at 1 p.m. at the Public Safety Building on Route 302. The town clerk informs me that nomination papers will be ready for the June 12, 2012 town election on Friday, March 16th. The deadline for submission of nomination papers will be Friday, April 27th at 4 p.m. Absentee ballots will be available on Friday, May 11th. Positions to be elected are selectmen, one selectman for a 3-year term, Budget Finance Committee, 3 for a 3-year term, RSU board member, 1 for a 3-year term. And Mr. Levitt is correct. I was going to recognize Mr. Desjardins for his excellent public service in reporting a crime to the Cumberland County Sheriff's Office that occurred on town property. I understand that to have been instrumental in solving that crime, and so that was a very, I guess, observant and an excellent action that he did on behalf of the town, the Lions Club. It had to do with the bottle depot and some inappropriate activity there. So we do thank him for that.
The chair would like to recognize Mr. Desjardins for keeping your eyes open, and we appreciate it. Thank you.
Could I just ask a question, and it's really just a question about, and since Louise is here, about the nominations for, in March, nominations being available. If I may, I saw 3 positions, Louise, for budget finance, but isn't there actually 4? Isn't there an existing vacancy on budget finance? So there's 3 that are lapsing.
I think you're right.
And then there is one which we haven't filled, it's still open, so
You're right.
at this election, we should actually be having 4 slots. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm just going based on that, so.
Okay, let's do the fiscal warrants.
I'd like to make a motion to accept payroll expense summary dated February 7th, 2012 for the amount of $90,038.34.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Unanimous?
Also like to make a motion to accept treasurer's warrant dated February 7th, 2012 for the amount of $109,098.35.
Second.
Moved and seconded, any discussion? All in favor? Unanimous? That it? Okay,
Joe, can I ask a question on the upcoming meetings?
sure.
Meeting on the February 28th, we're going to receive the proposed budget.
Well before that, I hope.
We'll see, we'll go over it in public. And then the March 6th, it says consideration of the budget and the ordinances. Do we need to, given the fact we have so many ordinances, do we need to meet at 6:30 possibly rather than 7? I don't know how long the consideration of budget stuff that night has the potential to be. I don't remember what we take in what order.
Well, I mean, what we've done the last few years, and probably the last 5 or 6 years, is when we meet with the Budget Finance Committee is when we go through it line by line. And then the following meeting, if there are further questions and follow-ups, we get answers to those. We try and vote out the budget at that meeting. I'm open to a 6 o'clock or 6:30 meeting if anybody wants to move it up. Does that work for everybody? So why don't we plan on a 6 PM meeting on March 6th? Okay, then? I don't know how long these public hearings are gonna go.
I don't either, that's why I see.
Those are the ones that there's a toss-up. So why don't we plan on 6 PM on March 6th?
Joe?
Yep.
Excuse me, when are you going to start with public hearing at 6?
We're gonna start with public hearings at 6 here.
I just think the public may have a problem with that.
Why?
Because of
Maybe they
getting
don't
out
know
of
what
work.
work is about.
Okay, well, what we can start with then is the regular agenda, and then at 7 PM, start the public hearing. Okay, our next agenda item is an executive session pursuant to Title I, subsection 4056H, about land use legal matters. I need a motion.
Make a motion, we go into executive session pursuant to 1 MRSA subsection 4056H regarding pending land use legal matters.
Second.
All in favor? Okay. We are now in executive session. Okay, we are out of executive session. Need a motion to go back into session, regular session.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor. We're back in session. I need a motion.
Motion to adjourn?
No.
Nice try, Sam.
I'd like to make a motion authorizing our CEO to give 7 days, which would be February 15th, for a response to pending legal matters on land use.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Okay. Now, Sam, actually, not on the agenda is selectmen comment, if anybody has anything they want to add. Seeing none? Oh,
No.
no.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor? Thank you and good night.